Your grandmother never bought a single bag of fertilizer in her life, and yet her tomatoes were the kind that made the whole neighborhood jealous. Big, deep red, bursting with flavor, the kind you cannot find in any grocery store no matter how much you pay. She just kept a compost pile out back, tossed in her kitchen scraps and yard waste, and every spring she worked that dark, crumbly stuff into her beds. It seemed almost too simple. But here is the thing. Science has spent the last 3 decades proving that she was right all along, and the fertilizer industry has been selling you a very expensive shortcut that is quietly destroying the one thing your garden cannot survive without: the soil itself. The Rodale Institute, one of the most respected agricultural research organizations in the world, ran a 30-year side-by-side comparison trial, the longest of its kind in North America, putting organic compost-based systems up against conventional synthetic fertilizer systems. 30 years. That is not a weekend blog experiment. That is rigorous, peer-reviewed, controlled science. And when the data came in, it vindicated everything your grandmother did on instinct. By the end of this, you are going to understand exactly why compost beats every fertilizer on the shelf. And it is not even close. Let's start with the most fundamental difference, because once you see this, you cannot unsee it. Synthetic fertilizers deliver a quick hit of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium directly to the plant. That sounds great on paper, but here is what they do not do. They do nothing for the soil itself. Nothing. It is like giving someone a vitamin pill every morning, but never actually feeding them real food. Sure, the numbers look fine for a while, but the body starts breaking down. That is exactly what happens to your soil. Compost works completely differently. It feeds the entire soil ecosystem, the bacteria, the fungi, the earthworms, the protozoa, the whole living community beneath your feet. Those organisms then feed your plant in a slow, steady, natural cycle that keeps working long after you have walked away. Research shows that compost-amended soil has 43% higher total soil organic carbon and 35% higher microbial activity compared to soil treated with conventional amendments. Fertilizer bypasses biology. Compost works through it, and that distinction changes everything. Now here is where it gets really interesting, and this is the part most people never think about. Every time your grandmother dumped a wheelbarrow of compost onto her garden, she was not just feeding her tomatoes. She was building a living underground city. Long-term compost application significantly increases both bacterial and fungal richness in the soil. We are talking about a thriving, diverse community of organisms, each one playing a role. Studies show that compost enriches beneficial microbes like Sphingomonas and nocardioids, organisms that help cycle nutrients and protect roots, while actively suppressing harmful ones like Stachybotrys and Aspergillus that cause disease and rot. And here is the part that surprised even researchers. A single compost application created sustained changes in the soil microbial community that lasted over 227 days. One application. More than 7 months of measurable impact. Synthetic fertilizer does the opposite. It disrupts the microbiome because it delivers soluble nitrogen without the organic carbon that soil life needs to survive. You are essentially flooding the system with one ingredient and starving everything else. Every wheelbarrow of compost is infrastructure. It is a living network that processes nutrients, fights disease, and improves year after year. Fertilizer creates dependence. Compost creates independence. But there is another advantage hiding in that dark, crumbly material, and it might be the most important one of all. Water. Compost turns your soil into a sponge. For every 1% increase in soil organic matter, your soil can hold an additional 16,500 gallons of plant-available water per acre, down to 1 foot deep. Read that number again. 16,500 gallons from just a 1% increase. A 3-inch layer of compost mixed into sandy soil increased water holding capacity by 2.5 times. That is not a marginal improvement. That is a transformation. And this is where the Rodale data gets really compelling. Their 30-year trial found that organic corn yields were 31% higher than conventional during drought years, not in perfect conditions. During drought, when it mattered most, the compost-built soil held onto moisture while the conventionally managed soil let it drain away. Drought is becoming more common across agricultural regions worldwide. Your grandmother's garden survived dry spells not because she watered more, but because her soil acted like a reservoir instead of a sieve. She built that reservoir one compost pile at a time. And she built something else too, something most gardeners spend a fortune trying to buy in a bottle. Her garden had its own immune system. Compost suppresses soil-borne plant diseases through multiple mechanisms, and they work together in ways that no single product can replicate. Beneficial organisms like Trichoderma and Streptomyces species, these are natural allies that live in healthy compost, directly parasitize pathogens. They literally attack the things that would attack your plants. They also produce natural antibiotics right there in the soil. On top of that, compost microbes compete with disease organisms for nutrients, starving them out before they can get established. And perhaps most remarkably, they trigger your plant's own immune defenses through a process called induced systemic resistance. Your plant gets tougher because the soil community is telling it to put its guard up. A comprehensive study found significant disease suppression in 54% of compost-treated cases, with only 3% showing any disease increase. Compare that to synthetic fertilizers, which offer exactly zero disease protection. You use fertilizer, you still have to buy fungicides separately. You still have to spray, you still have to worry. Your grandmother did not need fungicides because her soil was already defending her plants. The defense was built in. Now, here's the part that should make you angry. If you have been buying synthetic fertilizer for years, it is not just that fertilizer does not build your soil, it actively destroys it. Prolonged synthetic fertilizer use can reduce soil fertility by up to 40% over time. Think about that. The product you are buying to make your soil more productive is making it less productive with every application. The soil degrades, so you need more fertilizer, which degrades it further. It is a textbook addiction cycle. Ammonium-based fertilizers acidify soil through a process called nitrification. That lowers your soil's pH, which harms beneficial organisms and locks out the very nutrients you are trying to deliver. And it gets worse. Nearly 80% of the synthetic nitrogen you apply is lost through runoff, erosion, or atmospheric conversion. You are paying for fertilizer that mostly leaves your property. It washes into the creek. It evaporates into the air. It goes everywhere except into your plants. This is not agriculture. This is a subscription model where the soil gets worse every season and you keep paying more to prop it up. And the bill does not stop at your property line. The environmental price tag is staggering. Over 120 million tons of synthetic nitrogen are applied globally every single year. More than half of that washes off fields and into waterways, creating toxic algal blooms that choke rivers and lakes and feeding ocean dead zones where marine life simply cannot survive. In the United States alone, the estimated environmental damage from nitrogen pollution has reached up to $2.4 billion per year since 1980. Billion with a B every single year. The Rodale 30-year trial found that organic and compost-based systems produce 40% fewer greenhouse gases and use 45% less energy than conventional systems. Every bag of synthetic fertilizer you buy carries a hidden environmental cost that never shows up on the price tag. Your grandmother's compost pile, by contrast, had a carbon footprint close to zero. She was sequestering carbon while the rest of the world was releasing it. So what did 30 years of controlled scientific data actually conclude? The Rodale Institute Farming Systems trial is the gold standard, the longest-running side-by-side comparison of organic and conventional agriculture in North America. After a brief transition period of about 3 years, organic and compost-based yields matched or exceeded conventional yields. Let that land. Equal or better production without a single bag of synthetic fertilizer. The organic systems were also more profitable because the input costs were dramatically lower. Soil organic matter and water infiltration rates were significantly higher in the organic plots. Better carbon dioxide retention was measured in the organically managed soils. 30 years of meticulous, controlled data confirmed what traditional gardeners knew from simple observation and experience. And this is really the core of it. Fertilizer is one ingredient. Compost is a complete system. When you apply compost, you are not just adding nutrients, you are adding organic matter, a living microbial community, water retention capacity, disease suppression, and carbon sequestration, all in one amendment. There is no product on any shelf at any garden center that does all of that. Your grandmother was not just feeding her plants, she was building soil that feeds itself. And here is the beautiful part. Every year that soil gets better instead of worse. Every bag of synthetic fertilizer is a short-term loan with interest. The soil gives you a season, then it wants more back than you gave it. Every wheelbarrow of compost is an investment that compounds. The returns get bigger over time, not smaller. Your grandmother knew all of this. She did not have the data or the vocabulary, but she had the observation and the patience. She watched her soil get darker and richer year after year. She noticed her plants were healthier without sprays. She saw that her garden came through dry summers when other people's did not. She trusted the process because she could see it working with her own eyes. It took science 30 years and millions of dollars in research funding to catch up to what she understood from a lifetime of paying attention. So if you have a patch of ground anywhere, a backyard, a raised bed, even a few containers on a patio, start a compost pile. It does not have to be fancy. Kitchen scraps, leaves, grass clippings, a little time in turning. That is all your grandmother used, and it was more than enough. You are not just growing better tomatoes. You are building something that lasts. And if this changed the way you think about your soil, you might want to look into how cover crops work alongside compost, because that is the other half of what made traditional gardens so resilient, and it is just as simple.